Hey, Gakmans here, Supply Chain Dynamics Chapter 10, Travel, Transparency and Trust. Sysdea gameplay 4, Trust on both sides. Both the supplier and the customer have this mechanism of gaining and losing trust. And the other side, well, the trust of A and B starts at an initial level, up here as well as up here. Trust can be gained and trust can be lost. Trust is gained if the performance of the customer in the eyes of the supplier leads to a perception of reliability. Trust at the supplier and customer can be gained or lost also if the perceived performance of the supplier is satisfactory or not. Let's just first to the customer here. How can the supplier develops an opinion on how reliable the customer is based on the alignment, or vice versa, the misalignment between what the customer tells the supplier that he forecasts that his orders will be, and what he actually does order. We know from the model that actually all the changes that the customer isn't really in control of how much he needs to order because his demand is exogenous. But of course, the supplier cannot tell that. So he simply sees a certain number and he doesn't know what part of the number is really driven by market needs for the customer, what part is really inflation or playing games, is opportunism. We get there by taking the current forecast and reliability and smoothing that over time. How do we get the current forecast or reliability? Well, what we really do is we take what is the gap between what was actually ordered and what was 5 weeks ago, or production lead time is 6 weeks, 6 weeks ago being told by this customer B to supplier A about their forecast. And if that's a big number, as a percentage of what originally was told, then there is a high forecast and reliability. You see here several cases in which that reaches 80% at a 50% increase. And that then leads to a low reliability, which then leads to an impact on trust. The impact on trust, if the net impact is positive, so the supplier is perceived as reliable, then trust grows. If that's negative, then trust is lost. So you can see here that impact on trust, if that's positive, then we get trust in B gained. If it's negative, smaller than 0, then we get trust lost. There are some mitigating factors on this, for instance, the habituation effect. We'll see that in a minute, but that's this basic logic. Here is the logic also of the trust distribution. So if there is a positive idea of the impact on trust, and with a certain small percentage per period, trust will erode. The same is true here with the customer towards the supplier. The customer looks for mostly at the service level, and he looks at to what extent that the actual performance, the service level achieved by the customer, so what percentage of orders he could actually fill, all the way from up here, the shipments to be compared to what the actual order was. If those are the same, so all orders are being fulfilled, then the perceived level is service level is high. If not, then it becomes lower, and when it becomes lower, that has an impact on the trust lost. As you see here, certain blips where that's too low. Overall, minimal impact on trust gained, and so this is the resulting effect. So both cases build that trust depending on the perception of what the other side is doing. What the other side is doing is partly simply a reaction to exogenous changes, and partly also an endogenous reaction as a result of the perception of A of what B is doing and the perception of B of what A is doing. So you really have a multiple actor game here, if you like.